It's time to build some spite with Spiritomb. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch and today we're going to take a look at this Spiritomb list. Obviously, building Spite is a very powerful ability. Spiritomb has been quite a force in the metagame in the Rebel Clash format, and it has had an early bit of success in Darkness Ablaze. Not quite as much because of the drop-off of Dragapult VMAX, but still around for sure. And since it's a one-prize attacking deck, it's got a lot of potential. What we'll do is we'll jump over onto PTCGO and see exactly how this deck is going to work. Here is our list. Spiritomb list that we are going to be taking a look at today, obviously focused around the Anguish Cry. Building Spite Spiritomb, very powerful attacker, does 10 damage for 1 Darkness energy, and does 30 more for every damage counter that is on our Spiritomb. Now, Building Spite can put 1 damage counter on per turn. If we get to 5, which is 1 less than it will take to knock out Spiritomb, then we can deal ourselves 160 damage. That's pretty solid, but there are a couple of things that we can do to make that a little bit higher in this deck. We've got things like Cape of Toughness, which we can attach to our Spiritombs to give that Pokemon an extra 50 HP, which means that we can get ourselves potentially up to 310 damage with 10 damage counters on a Spiritomb. The Spiritomb will have 110 HP with a Toughness Cape on it. So that is going to be the way that we try and take big knockouts with a single prize attacker. But I mean, we can't just sit and Building Spite for 10 turns. We've got to get some damage on there somehow. We used to do that with Rainbow Energy, but that obviously rotated in the last couple of weeks. So instead, we're going to try and use the Spikemuth Gym. Spikemuth Stadium. This stadium, whenever you are in the active and you retreat, the Pokemon that has retreated to the bench will take 2 damage counters. So we can use Spikemuth to move Spiritombs in and out of the active, gain extra damage counters, and then potentially use our Ominous Postured Jynx, which we played 2 of, to try and move those damage counters onto an attacking Spiritomb. So this is going to be our little combo that we're going to try and set up. And it's going to be quite interesting to see if we can get it to work. There are a couple of other things that we want to talk about in this list as well. And here's a card that I think is very interesting. It is Throh. With Reverse Shoulder Throw, this Pokemon can deal 120 damage. That might not seem like a big deal, but when you've got lots of fighting weak Pokemon in the format, Throw can potentially take some knockouts, or at least put things like Eternatus within range of being knocked out by a Spiritomb next turn. And that's only if our opponent have bench damage counter. If our benched Pokemon have damage counters on them, right? So even if we haven't been, did I say knocked out? I can't remember. I say words. That's right, I'm going to ignore it, and we're going to read the card as it is. If your bench Pokemon have damage counters, we can deal 90 more damage, and that's going to happen, because Spiritomb has damage counters on it. If Throw doesn't get knocked out, we can deal 120 damage every turn. It's going to be tough to accelerate energy too, though. It's a 2 energy cost. So instead we've got a Karate Belt. If we are behind, which we're likely to be, considering we're a 1 prize attacking deck, we can attach Karate Belt to Throw, and it means that it's only 1 energy to attack. Worst case scenario, we can use 3 copies of Aurora Energy to try and get that specified energy cost on our attacker. So it's kind of a cool way to deal with some of those difficult threats. Most importantly, it can knock out things like Dedenne as well. If you want to take a knockout on a Dedenne, Throw will do that instantly. You don't need to have Spiritombs with ticks on it. You can just take a knockout with Throw. The rest of the list, obviously built around trying to get these Pokemon attacking. We've got Jirachi in 4 copies with Dedenne as some support. Oricorio also in this list. Dance of Tribute, a very powerful ability, especially when you're going to be getting knocked out quite frequently, so definitely worth a consideration. And also Resetting Whole Marshadow, very important, because we don't want to get kind of screwed over by Chaotic Swell. We need to have Spikemuth in play to accelerate our damage counters, so Marshadow will help us do that. When it comes to Pokemon Search, we have 4 copies of Quick Ball and 3 copies of Great Ball. That ought to find us enough Pokemon so that we can get ourselves going. Realistically, all we need is Spiritomb and Jynx, and we can start attacking. But with 7 search options and 14 Pokemon in general, we should have enough time to get the Pokemon that we need into play. We also have a copy of Ordinary Rod, as well as a Lana's Fishing Rod in the deck. This will allow for quite a lot of Pokemon recursion and a little bit of energy recursion as well, but Lana's Fishing Rod will also allow us to bring back things like Cape of Toughness or Karate Belt, just in case we need to use them again. We also have a lot of ways to switch, because we need to switch a lot with Spikemuth Gym, so we've got Switch and Scoop Up Net to move things in and out of the active. We also have 4 copies of the new Bird Keeper card to allow us to switch again, which is going to be very, very good, as well as giving us some extra draw as well. So realistically, we could switch 2 or 3 times a turn, like a Retreat, a Bird Keeper, a Switch, a Scoop Up Net, and be into the active with quite a lot of damage on us, especially if we've used Spikemuth Stadium. We want to make sure, though, that we take the knockouts that we can when we can take them. That means we're going to need Great Catcher. We've got 1 copy of those and 2 Boss's Orders in order to gust out our opponent's Pokemon. We want to bring out the targets that we can take one-shots on, if possible, or at least put half hits onto VMAXs so that we can win the game with as few knockouts as possible. We're going to try and force our opponent to take 4 or 5 KOs, so we want to win before they can do that. And some consistency, we've got Professor's Research as well. Pardon me. Finally, when it comes to energy, I've already spoken about the Aurora. We have 4 copies of Hiding Darkness as well. That'll help our Spiritombs move in and out of the active with some retreats also. And then 2 copies of basic Dark Energy. Hopefully we can get Spiritomb powered up pretty quickly. I think it's actually reasonable to expect that we can get a lot of damage counters on this thing in a short space of time. The question will be, can we get to 310 damage? We'll jump on the ladder and we'll find out. Onto the ladder now, and thank you very much to Matt for playing some games with this deck. Hello, Hunter AB, how you doing? We will see whether or not Spiritomb can get across the line. If you want to copy the deck list and use it yourself in your own games, your own testing, then there's a list in the description that you can copy and import into PTCGO for your perusal. And whilst you're down there, consider Twitter, Facebook, Discord. We've got a Discord. Did you know that? That's something that we don't really talk about too much. There's a Discord that you could join. There's a link in the description. Go click it. That would be great. Love to see you there. Have a chat and discuss some deck lists. We've got a Spiritomb in the active and a Jynx on the bench, as well as an attachment for turn, which is good, and a Cape of Toughness, which is also pretty solid. We can probably get ourselves attaching here, and it looks like we are going to go up against ADP Zacian here. I'm making that assumption based on the deck box. If that is the case, that we face a Dragon and Metal deck, then we will be able to take quite a lot of prizes with our Anguish Cry. I think it looks like Matt's just going to go for the discard with Throw. Maybe not required in this particular matchup. Not something that we're super interested in. We can play down another Spiritomb here. We've got Spikemuth and Switch, so we could actually get this Spiritomb in the active pretty close to maximum damage already. We will, looks Matt's going for the Switch, even though he has the Hiding Darkness energy there. Very interesting choice. Could have just retreated and held the Switch for later, but it's okay, it's fine. We've got pretty much all the things that we need. Oh boy, I've got the hiccups, so I probably should stop recording, but I'm not going to. Oh, well. This is what it's like behind the curtain, everyone. 40 HP, 40 damage onto the Spiritomb on the bench already. What would be even better if we could get it up to 50, and next turn we'll be able to do that. Spikemuth is going to help us along the way. And you can see how quickly we can get these damage counters down with Spiritomb and Switch and Spikemuth and all these kind of things. We can get a lot of damage counters onto Spiritombs very, very quickly. Now, we're going to need to deal 280 damage to this ADP, which means we're going to need to have 9 damage counters on a Spiritomb. 9 damage counters, because if we get 9, then 9 times 3 is 27. 270 plus 10, 280 is a knockout. That's what we're looking for. The question is, can we get it? Especially when they're playing Crushing Hammer. That's very frustrating. A Tails for our opponent, which is okay. We're not too stressed about that. Looks like they're going to retreat into their ADP here if they have access to their... Oh, looks like they're going into the Zacian and then just an Intrepid Sword. Okay. So we might actually have a chance to take a knockout on a Zacian here. That could be very, very good. We've actually just come upon Bird Keeper as well. which is very interesting. What we could do is we could, like, I don't know what the best route of play here is. Looks like Matt's just going, no, I'm going to get rid of the Bird Keeper. I'm going to grab myself another Jynx. That way, Matt can at least retreat the active manually and then power up a Spiritomb like that. And then we'll use the research to try and draw as many cards as we can. We've got a couple of switches here, which is really good. We could, theoretically, get a knockout on this Zacian. It's going to take a little bit of work, but I'm sure that we can manage it because we've got a ton, an absolute ton of opportunities to move damage counters here. So it's just a matter of how we choose to go about it. Looks like we're going to go with our Great Balls first. I think we've managed to find all 3 of them there, which is very impressive. We've got another Spiritomb which we can chuck onto the bench. And we'll see what our last Great Ball grabs us. A Jirachi could be useful, might be worth playing down, depends on what the best route of play for us is. I think that I'd be happy with a Spiritomb. Looks like Matt's going to switch into the Spiritomb on the bench. We're going to move some of those damage counters from the benched Spiritomb to the active. Now it has 60 damage on it. We're going to go up to 70 here. I believe we can retreat if we want to, because we've got the hiding darkness energy on there and then switch again. Or we could just take the knockout with Anguish Cry and hope for the best. The benefit for us retreating and then going into another Spiritomb there would have been that we could have got some more damage on the benched Spiritomb, but it's not going to be that much of a problem. We want to make sure that we've got as much as possible ready and raring to go for this turn, because we need to take knockouts. Looks like our opponents finally hit a heads on a Crushing Hammer, so they'll be able to use their GX attack here to get their Altered Creation going. We need to find an energy. If we find energy, then we're probably in a pretty good spot to actually take knockouts. I'll take a knockout on this ADP this turn. In fact, as long as we find an energy, we are guaranteed to get it, because we've got 2 Jynx and 20 damage counters on the bench already. Add that to a Building Spite from our active, and we will be able to get ourselves a knockout. So this is a really, really good place for us to be in. They've used their Altered Creation. All we need to do now is attach the energy that we have in our hand and then move some of the damage from the benched Spiritombs onto the active, and we'll be doing 310, which is really, really good damage. Looks like Matt's going to go with the hiding darkness energy. We'll use Building Spite on our active Spiritomb. You would think that the Building Spite will come through on the benched ones as well. That will give us a couple of other options potentially. It means that we can move 2 damage off of the benched Spiritomb with Ominous Posture, the one with no energy on it. If we want to, we can just move it from either. It doesn't really matter too much. Ominous Posture will make sure that our attacker in the active has enough HP to survive, but to also deal 310. Look at that. It's a little one-prize attacker dealing 310 damage. That is immense, and fair enough, a concession from our opponent. We jump back in, another game. Again, Matt playing here, so we'll see how this one goes. We've lost the coin flip, which means our opponent gets to choose, but they've opted to go second, which means that we've got ourselves an opportunity to set ourselves up a little bit. We've got a Spiritomb, which we can put in the active. We've got a Jynx as well. We've got a couple of Quick Balls. We are in a fantastic spot to make some really, really good plays early on and get a lot of damage counters in ASAP. And it looks like our opponent is going to be playing Inteleon VMAX in this matchup. This could be quite interesting because they will be able to snipe our bench Pokemon quite a bit. We'll see what happens here. Looks like we've got access to Jirachi here. We've got access to Spiritomb. We've got another Quick Ball. The shame is that we've already used. We've already had 3 of our researchers in hand. Now 2 of them are in the discard pile, so that's a little unfortunate. But we can go into Jirachi here. We can switch into Jirachi, try and find ourselves a stadium. That would be great. Either that or finding something. Oh, there's a stadium there, which would be good. We can grab that. We've got Bird Keeper in hand, so that would mean that we can get some damage counters down. It might actually be worth, though, just using Quick Ball to grab Dedenne. I like the Spikemuth a little bit better, though. Means that we've got at least some damage acceleration. We've got Bird Keeper for next turn. Just make sure that we Building Spite here so that we've got all of the damage counters that we can possibly get on our Spiritombs, and then we're good to go for next turn. No energy attachment, which is disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. We don't need to worry about that too much. Our opponent won't be doing anything really spectacularly amazing this turn. The most they could realistically do is Snipe Shot, which would deal 40 damage to one of our Spiritomb, which is fine. It's fine by us because they're not going to get knocked out. Unless, of course, they use a Zigzagoon, in which case they can get knocked out. Oh dear. This is a problem. These problems now. Right. Scoop Up Net from our opponent, grabbing another Zigzagoon back. They can put extra damage onto the Jirachi as well. Means now that Jirachi is going to be in knockout range of a VMAX, which is quite frightening. This is going to be very difficult. This is going to be really tough. I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to win this one. Snipe Shot will take a knockout on our bench Spiritomb. We're already behind, so we'll see if we can't pull something out here. But I'm not super confident. We'll see. Building Spite on the bench Spiritomb. We can play down the Spikemuth, and I think we're at the point now where we need to research, right? We need to research so that we can get ourselves some extra cards. We could potentially Stellar Wish and Bird Keeper, but I think the best thing to do is to research. It means that we have best chance of finding things like the big old Caperoo, which I like. We can switch the Jirachi into the bench. The Spiritomb can go into the active. We find another Jirachi here. We might consider discarding that with Quick Ball to get another Jynx. We've also got another Spiritomb on the bench that we can potentially power up, or we could just use Oricorio here. That's actually a pretty good choice. Dedenne also a safe option. We need to get a bit more damage on this Spiritomb, and I don't know that'll do it. That'll do it. That'll get us to 50, which is not quite enough to knock out our opponent. But it is enough to put it within a 2-shot of a VMAX, so we'll see. 20 damage onto the bench. We'll switch into the fresh benched Spiritomb here. We can then scoop up that Spiritomb and then move the damaged one back into the active. This means that we can keep the damage counters on Jirachi, which is actually pretty good, because we will be able to Jynx those across very easily. We'll just Anguish Cry here for 160. Still impressive that we did that much damage on turn 2 though, so not worth, not like crazy damage, but still pretty solid. Like, it's a good amount. It's not enough to knock out an Inteleon though, and now we're probably going to find ourselves in a position where our opponent is able to not only knock out our active every turn, but put pressure on our benched Pokemon every turn as well. Because they're going to be dealing 160 to the active and then sniping the bench as well for 60. So it's not great. We have to get a little bit lucky here, you would think, to try and win this one. Zigzagoon coming down. That's probably going to go onto the bench Spiritomb again. There it is. We've already lost our Ordinary Rod, which is a bit unfortunate. And here's a research. They're probably going to find some energy here which they could attach to their Inteleon on the bench. Looks like they've got a couple, which is pretty solid. If they get 3, they'd be super happy. I think what they're looking for now is just a... if they can find a VMAX to evolve the benched one, pretty much the entire game is over. I mean, I can't see a way that we come back if that is the case. We are still Ice Dancing here. So there's a 3rd energy onto the benched Inteleon and a Quick Ball. So we could be seeing a Dedenne or a Crobat here. Try and draw some more cards. Yeah, I'm not liking our chances. I'm not liking our chances at all, especially if they get the knockout on the active. At the moment, they're actually not capable of getting the knockout on the active with the Inteleon V that they already have here, because it's only going to be able to deal 40 damage. So they need to find a VMAX to knock this Spiritomb out, or they need to move the Inteleon V that's on the bench into the active to get that knockout. They're putting 30 more damage on a Jirachi here. Looking to try and knock that out potentially with a snipe shot. You would think though that they would want to try and knock out the Spiritomb. Here comes that snipe shot and the knockout on the Spiritomb. Fair enough. And now we are in a bit of a difficult spot. Especially when we keep drawing energy when we don't have access to an attacker. We are probably going to need to research here. Although there's an argument for actually putting the Aurora energy onto the Dedenne. We could potentially get a Tingly return off, which would be quite impressive. It looks like that's what Matt is going for here. Here comes a research as well. Luckily, we find another Spiritomb and an Oricorio, so we can start building up a second attacker, draw some more cards, which will be good. Yeah, we're in a bit of strife. It's not great. What we could do, though, is we could move some of the damage off of the active Spiritomb to try and get the benched one powered up a little bit more quickly. We can now scoop up the Jirachi as well, which would be really good. We can even scoop up this Jynx a couple of times if we want to. Move that damage onto the benched one so that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for our opponent to find knockouts. It looks like that's the direction that we're headed in. Ominous Posture will move some more damage off of Jirachi onto the Spiritomb on the bench. The worst part for us here is that we still need to take 6 prizes, and at the moment we don't really have the ability to do that. We are going to move damage from the active Spiritomb to the benched one as well. That means that now we can potentially get ourselves a bit more of a nicer knockout on our opponent. But leaving that Jirachi with 10 HP left is with 10 HP on it is very difficult, because now it can potentially be knocked out by an Inteleon VMAX. We'll see here. We'll see what we can achieve. I'm not liking our chances that much, I will say this. The good thing for us is Inteleon is weak to lightning, so if Dedenne-GX comes into play, we could potentially deal quite a lot of damage to it. Here comes a Capacious Bucket to find 2 water energies. Potentially attach those to the Keldeo. It's not a great attacker, but it'll do the job. Yeah, we're in a real rough spot, especially if our opponent can find the VMAX. They've missed it so far, but if they find it, they're going to be in a really good spot. They're going to Marnie here and try and get themselves that of evolution. For us, we're in a bit of a rough spot. If they don't find the evolution, though, we could realistically get ourselves a pretty solid play. They're switching by the looks of it, switching into the Keldeo. So maybe just taking the knockout here with the Keldeo means that they don't have access to the VMAX. We could be getting a little bit of luck here. What we can do is we can move either the Dedenne or the Jirachi into the active. This Spiritomb is probably going to be able to take a knockout. It depends whether or not we want to use this Jirachi. I think we probably do. Try and find a supporter would be great because we need the energy. We've top-decked it, which is fantastic. We can move the damage counter off of this Jirachi before scooping it up as well. We'll Stellar Wish, see what we can find. That boss could be really good. That boss could be really good. 40, how much have we got? We're going to get 50, 60. Can we get the knockout? I don't think we can get the knockout. Grab Quick Ball, just in case we need to find some other damage. What we could do is we could find another Spiritomb if there was one. Oh, no. We've had too many knocked out already. Okay, so it might be the time for Throh. We might need to have Throh. What we'll do is we'll grab this other Jirachi, I guess. Go looking for another supporter potentially. We don't really need to. We could just try and we can get the knockout on the active. We've still got access to Dance of Tribute as well. We probably should have used that before doing anything else. We've got a boss's orders here. That's pretty strong. We can Ominous Posture, get ourselves an extra damage counter on Spiritomb. We can Building Spike, that'll take it to 60. We can scoop up the Jirachi in the active. We're at the point now where we can pretty much take... Oh, Inteleon has 200. Can we take... I think we can take a knockout on that. 160, 190. We're like 10 damage off. So how can we get 10 damage onto this Spiritomb? That is the question. It looks like Matt is willing to go hunting for it. I'm going to Stellar Wish here, see what we can find. There's a Bird Keeper, a Spikemuth as well. Great Ball could be useful. Obviously, Spikemuth, very important for us getting damage counters, but we don't have it at the moment because that Chaotic Swell will get rid of that stadium. So it looks like it's just going to be a switch into the Spiritomb here. Do we choose to take a knockout on the active, or do we try and half-hit the benched Inteleon? I don't think that either of those plays are amazing. 190 on the Keldeo. That is so disappointing. Would have loved to have gotten the knockout on the benched Inteleon, but alas, it was not to be. Our opponent promotes the Zigzagoon here, so maybe they don't have that VMAX. Maybe they don't have a way to get there. Maybe they've just got the Scoop Up Net in hand. There we go. The victory sign comes up. We managed to get there. So there we have it. I can't believe we won that second one. I'm frankly very surprised, but we did. And that's the most important thing. Spiritomb, a very, very powerful option if you're looking for a single prize attacking deck in this format. Very much recommended. Thank you very much to Matt for recording this video. I always appreciate support. If you want to jump in and be involved with the channel, maybe you want to share some deck lists or just have a chat to myself and the other members of the team, then feel free to jump into the Discord. That's down below. Otherwise, support us by liking the video, commenting down below, and subscribing like usual. Click on some of the links over here or over here. That would be great. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Like, seriously, have a good one. You're doing a good job. I'm proud of you. Goodbye.